Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are discussing on top 15 frequently asked CSS questions which are asked in almost all of the interview. Let's begin our video. Our first question is, what are CSS selectors? So what are CSS selectors? Let's read the definition. CSS selectors, they are used to select the HTML element that you want to style. So in case you have any element in your page and you want to give a style, you want to change the color, you want to give it a background color, or you want to change the font size, or any styling you want to give, then you have to make use of CSS selector. So there should be some way how you can identify the element, that what element you have to do changes, because it is not like you'll have only one element, you might be having multiple elements, right? You will have multiple elements and you want to apply the style specific to only one element, not to the other element. So how do you identify that specific element? By making use of CSS selector. So that is what is written here, that CSS selector, they are used to select the HTML element that you want to style. And what are different CSS selectors? We have elements selectors, then we have class selectors, ID selectors, and we have attribute selector. Let's see example and understand that what these types of selector are. So first one which we saw was the element selector. So element selector is nothing but you are going to write the same element directly. You are going to write the element directly in the CSS file so that you can style it better. If you make use of this P, that is our paragraph element, paragraph tag, if you write this in the CSS file, then what will happen, all your paragraph tags in your screen or in your page will have that CSS style, whatever you have written in your CSS file. So this element selector is basically, it is going to select all the elements. So in case you write h1, or in case you write div or span, so all of those div, span, or any element whatever you're writing, all of them will get the same CSS together. Then we have class name, that is class selector. So for any of the element which you're writing, there you can give the class. And class is also similar, so you can have different classes. For example, you have h1, you have span, and you have div. So what you can do, you can give the same class name to 2, 3, 4, or any number of elements. You can give the same class name, and then what will happen, the group of elements will get that CSS style. So for example, you want your button also to have background of light gray color, and you want your paragraph also to have background of light gray color. So you can make use of the class name. Or if you want to give the border radius, that your buttons or any span or any article what you have written, they should have the curved, like they should not have very edge, like too much of the edge of the 90-degree. They should be slightly curved. Then that border radius class you can make, right, and that class you can give to multiple elements, and then you can apply the CSS together for all those elements. Then you have ID selector. What is ID selector? ID selector is nothing but it is specific to one element only. So in any language or any code, if you have read any programming language, you would know that IDs are only one. Even in DBMS and all, in any place IDs are one. Even if you're a student, you're an employee, then we have unique IDs, right? There is no duplication of IDs. Similarly, for any element in your HTML page, they will have a individual IDs. So IDs cannot be duplicated, they cannot be repeated. So you are going to give a ID to your HTML element, that this is the ID of my HTML element, and whatever CSS I write are going to get applied to only one element that is having the same ID. Then we can write, if we want to select the P in div, their child, then this is the syntax. And this, the last one we have is attribute selector. So attribute is nothing but in your element, if you have attribute, you have given type is equal to text as your attribute, you can come and write that same attribute, you can select that attribute in the CSS file. So for that you have to write square bracket, you have to start it and you can end it, and in between that you have to write that the type attribute, it is equivalent to text. So type attribute, wherever whatever element is having its type attribute as text, there you have to apply the CSS changes. So these are types of CSS selectors. Example, you can see here what we have written, we have directly written a P tag. So what kind of CSS selector is this? This is a element CSS selector, and we have given color is equal to blue. So this is like is to symbol. So you have given color blue. So all the paragraph tags in your application, in your page, are going to get selected and their color will become blue. So you can see here that it selects all the P tags of your application. Next, second question is, what is difference between class selector and id selector? We have discussed in previous question also that class selector, they apply their styling to multiple elements, while id selector, they apply their styling to one unique element. So class selectors, there can be multiple element who have the same class, but there will be only one element who is having that particular id cannot be repeated. And example code example, you can see, if we are making use of the class selector, then we have to make use of dot symbol before that, and then in braces, here we have to write the braces, we have to open the curly braces and close the curly brackets, and then in this you can write whatever is the styling you want to give. You want to change color, background color, border radius, height, width, font size, or whatever you want to do, you are going to write it inside this curly brackets. And if you want to make use of the id selector, so for id selector you have to make use of the hash symbol, and after that you have to write your id. So this id main, this will be referring to your element which is having id is equal to main. So whatever is the id, this is the exact main, this is the keyword you would have written for your element, that id is equal to main. And in your css file you have to just come and write hash, and then you have to write your id name, and then you can give the color. So if you are writing a class name, then all the elements who have the same class name, their color will become red, whereas your element which would be having your individual element, one single element which would be having its id as main, that will get color as blue. So this is about, this is the difference between class selector and the id selector. Let's see our third question. How do you select all p elements inside a div? So if we want to select all the p elements, suppose we are having one div, and inside this div we have maybe hundreds of paragraph element, there are hundreds of p tags. So if you have to normally give your class styling or class names, then what you will have to do, you will have to come and write, either give them all of them, you have to go to all of the tags and you have to give them the class name, or you have to individually give them the data. But what if you want to select all the p tags inside div? In this whole div, it is not necessary that you will have only p, there can be one span also, then again there will be continuation of p. But what you want to do, you want to select all the p tags together. So how can you do it? You cannot do it by giving individual ids, because then you'll have to create 100 individual ids. You cannot make use of classes also here, because then 100 times you'll have to go and write in every tag that the class name is this like coloring, class name is coloring, and then 100 times you'll have to give that class name. So how can you do? You can make use of the descendant selector. So this example for descendant selector is like, you can just write div, and then you can like write p, and then here you can give your styling. So what does this syntax mean? This syntax means that all the p tags inside the div container are going to get selected. So this is what is written to select all the p elements within a div, and this is the example is like, we have written div, and then we have to give space, and then we have written paragraph tags. So what happens here, all the paragraph tags which are present inside this div are going to get selected, and then we can give our styling property of whatever we want to do, color, background color, or anything. Now our fourth question is, what is css box model? So the box model, it is a rectangular box that describes the layout of the element, including the content, padding, border, and margin. So if you have any content, okay, if I have any content like span or paragraph or h1, anything whatever I have given, so this is my content which is having some word called s. Then there is a border. If you write that border will be 2 pixel solid red, then this is how you will see your content in your web page. So you will be seeing a border. So what we understood about content, we understood about border, that yes, this is first, inside one is content and the outer one is border. What is padding? What is padding related to? Padding is nothing but the distance between your content and the border. So if you want to give any padding, there can be left, there can be top, then right, and bottom, and left. So there will be four properties like padding. You can either give all of them together, or you can separately give them. So padding is nothing but the distance between your text, your content, and the border. And what is margin? Margin is nothing but the distance between your whole content and the next container or next item. So this will be your margin. In margin also we have like top, right, and bottom, left. So this is how we have our margin also. And same with margin, you can give all of them together, or you can give the values to them together, or you can give them individually. So you have to remember that first inside one is content, then you have border, and the difference between the border and your content is padding, and outside distance is called as margin. Here you can see the example. We have written that for all of the div element, their width will be 100 pixels. So if you have any div element, they will be having 100 pixel width, and then padding for them will be 10 pixels. So this will be their padding, okay. And together we have written that from left and top, right, bottom, they will have 10 pixels width, and their border color and their size is 2 pixels solid black. Here we have, I'm making use of the red pen, that is why it is red, but yeah, it will be black. And then you can give margin as 5 pixels. Suppose it is not having any neighboring, any neighbor container or any neighbor element div, then what margin will get applied to its related to its viewport. So if this is our top beginning of our top of our application, then 5 pixel will be calculated from your top of your screen, and again from here left also you will have 5 pixels. So this is how CSS box model works. Our fifth question here is, how do padding and margin differ in box model? So we have discussed in previous question, we will see again. So padding, it is the space between the content and the elements border, while the margin, it is the space outside the border between the element and the other element, okay. So we have discussed in previous question also that what is padding. Suppose we have this content and there is a border. So what is the like what is this padding referring to? Padding is referring to the space between the content and the element. So this is my content and this is the element's border. So space between the content and the border of that element is called as padding, and margin is nothing but the space outside this border between the element and the another element or another div or any element can be there. So this is called as the margin, and in case you don't have any other neighboring element, then your margin is going to refer to the viewport or the top of your screen. And margin and padding, we can give their values individually also, or we can give them together. So here we are giving it together. In case you just want to give margin top, then you can just write margin hyphen, and then you can write top, 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 and you can give the value. So let us see a normal example of padding and margin. So you have a box, and for box, let us suppose that this is the box and you are giving padding as 10 pixel. So from top, right, bottom, and left, you will have 10 pixels of space, and then margin you have given 15 pixels. That outer space is going to be 15 pixels from all the sides, from top, right, bottom, and left. Let's go to our sixth question. How do you set the width and the height of element including its padding and border? So what happens normally is their width and height of any element, they are excluded by default. But how do we have, like what can we do if we want to include them? So we have to make use of box sizing border box property of the CSS to include the padding and the border in the element's total width and height. Normally by default they are excluded, but in case we want to include them, them in the sense include the padding and border in the elements total width and height, we have to make use of box sizing border box CSS property. It is normal code example. We can see here we have written div in our CSS file, then width, padding, border, everything is normal. But in case we want to include the padding and border width also together with the elements total width and height, then we have to make use of border sizing border box. This is how we can include the padding and border with the elements width or height. Our seventh question is, what is the property in CSS? What is position property in CSS? So what is position property? Position property defines how an element is positioned on the page. How the element is positioned in the page, in the sense whether it is sticky or is it absolute or is it relative, or what kind of, what is the positioning of that element, that is defined by the position property. It can include values like static, relative, absolute, and fixed. And there is also one sticky example. You can see from, you have given position as absolute, and then you have given top and left, that positioning will be absolute. Absolute in the sense that element is going to position itself or going to refer to the nearest positioned ancestor. And then we can have the top and left. So for example, if I have to give, this is a big element, inside this we have the box element, okay. Inside this we have box element. So if I give box as position absolute, then it is going to position itself according to the parent or the element, the nearest parent element who is having who is positioned actually. So for example, if this parent is also positioned with relative, then it is going to position itself according to the parent. And then here we have given top 10, then top 10 pixels, and left 20 pixels. So this is how positionings are done. And we have different properties like static, relative, absolute, and fixed. And in case we don't have any parent, in case we don't have any positioned parent, ancestor parent, then what absolute element will do, it is going to position itself according to the viewport. So in case there was no parent and there is just a element here and there is no ancestral position parent, then it is going to do the positioning related to its viewport, that is the screen size. So from your screen size, that is from left, it will have 20 pixel or whatever you have given. Let's see our eighth question. What is difference between absolute and relative positioning? So absolute positions a element relative to its nearest positioned ancestor, while relative positions the element relative to its normal position. So let us see an example. We have discussed in previous question, but we will see it again. What is relative? Suppose you have an element here and you give position as relative, and after that you give top as 10 pixel and left as 10 pixel. So this element, how is it going to position itself? It is going to position itself with this y axis and this x axis. So it is going to position itself according to its normal position. This was its, this element's normal position. Now whatever changes you do, it is going to get positioned according to its normal position. So in case you give top as 10 pixel, here we have given top as 10 pixel, right? So how will this element look like? This was our axis, right? So if you give top as 10 pixel, it, your element will come and settle here. It is going to position itself there, and this distance will be 10 pixels because you have given top 10 pixels. Okay, this is how your relative works. Coming to your absolute, suppose you are having a element here and you are giving its position as absolute, and here you have one nearest positioned ancestor and this is maybe relative, and the inner one you have given absolute. So in case you give like top as 10 pixel and left as 10 pixel, so it is going to position itself according to the parent, according, it is going to refer to the, or being relative to the nearest positioned ancestor, that is our parent. So from top you will have 10 pixel and from left also you will have 10 pixel. And in case you don't have any parent, then absolute is going to position itself based upon the screen width or the viewport. And this is the example. You can just write relative and absolute. These are class names, so you can write anything here. This class names can vary, and these properties are important. You have to write position as relative. For relative, if you want to make your element relative, this class name you can change, but styling CSS, these things are compulsory, that you have to write position as relative, and top you can give whatever positioning you want to give, so that you can give whatever you want to. Then again, this is the class name. For absolute, you have to write position as absolute, and you can give the data, that from top what do you want and from left what do you want, like how much width or how much spacing you want. Our ninth question is, what is flexbox in CSS? So flexbox, it is a layout model that makes it easier to align and distribute the spaces among the items in container using properties like display flex, justify content, and align item. So flexbox, this is useful for layout purpose or the positioning purpose, and it makes our task easier. If we want to align, if there is a big container and it is having three elements, so without flexbox we will have to keep calculating that what will be the position of the first element, then how much space margin we have to give, and then we have to give our second element, then we have to give our third element. So all these things, the width here, then the margin here, then again width here, and the margin here, and then the again width here, all these calculations we'll have to do on our own. But if we are making use of flexbox, it makes our all the calculation, all our task easier. We need not do any calculation, we can just make use of the display flex, and all of these things of the distributing the spaces and aligning the elements in our parent container will be done by the flexbox only. And this is what is written. And with the display flex, we have properties like we have to write display flex, and then we have to give justify content, and we have to write align items. So normally by default, if we are writing display flex, justify content is applicable horizontally, and align items is applicable, it is going to do the changes for the column wise. This is for align item. So you have container, display flex, you have to write this is our class name, container is our class name. Then we have given display as flex, and justify content we have written space between, that there should be spaces between each element of our container. And then align item we have given center, that from like vertically they should be in center, they should be aligned in this in center. Now our 10th question is, what are media queries in CSS? So media queries, they allow you to apply the CSS rule based upon the device characteristics like screen width using the media rules. So why media queries? Firstly, they, why are they useful? So why they are useful is because we have multiple screens. We have screen width for mobile, we have it for tablet, then we have it for laptop, and then like for our whole PC. So there are different screen sizes. So how do we accumulate our all of our element so that it is clearly visible in every screen, because every screen size is different, right? So for that we have to make use of media query, where we can write the rules that what will be the CSS. If suppose in a big screen we are showing our nav bar horizontally, but if you open the same application in tab or mobile, you cannot show, maybe this is how it will be visible in your mobile, you cannot see the whole content of your nav bar. Then what you will have to do, if this is your mobile or tab content, maybe you will have to show your all the data nav bar vertically for them. So your CSS stylings might change, right? Here you are showing it horizontally, here you have to show it vertically, so all the CSS might change. So if you want to write such code that it is fitting all of the screens, then you can make use of the media queries, and there we can write that for what width, for what device, what kind of styling you want. So this is the syntax where you have to write at media, and then you can give the size of the screen, like till what width, what is the style you want. So here you see the example, you have written at media and you have given max width 600. So what does this mean? This means that if your screen is like this and you are reaching the max width of 600, which means that if this is your 600, okay, in case your screen has reached is under your 600 pixel, or it has reached 600, it can be from 0 to 600. So for these things your background will be light blue, but after this 600 it will be something else what you have given by default, maybe blue or green, whatever you have given. So you are just checking that max width in the sense your screen can have only maximum width of 600, that is from 0 to 600, and for that you are giving background color as light blue. This is how your media queries work. Let's see our 11th question. What is difference between min width and max width in media queries? So difference between min width and max width are like, min width, it applies the styles when the viewport width is greater than the specified value, while max width, it applies these styles when width is less than the specified value. So we can see here we have at media and we have written min width as 768 pixel. So what does this mean? That if you have your screen size like this and you have something like 768 here, okay, 768 here from 0. So what are you doing? You are just writing your styling condition that for those screens who are having their minimum width as 768, which means that if your screen is from here, like after 768, whatever of whatever devices are using your application, only for them your styling will be applied. So minimum width of 768 is mandatory. Below that we don't care, it will have some other styling, but till minimum, till the minimum of 768 we will have the styling what we have written here. So you can see here it is written tablets and up. So tablets might be having minimum width of 768 pixel, and above that anything, any device, it is going to have the CSS of whatever we have written here. Coming to max width, we have discussed in previous question also that max width 767, which means that your screen size will be till here. If your screen size is still 767, that is the maximum width it can have is 767, then it is going to have the CSS property what we have defined here. So it works little opposite. If you are writing min width, then it is something like the outcome what comes is it is above min width. If you're writing, then it is nothing but this number plus above. If you're writing max width, that means that this number plus below, like it can have anything below this value, and if you're writing min width, it can have anything above this value, any device which supports at least minimum of this width and above this width. Our 12th question is, how do you create a responsive grid layout? So to create a responsive grid layout, we have to make use of CSS grid, or we have to make use of the flexbox along with the media queries to adjust the layout for different screen sizes. So we have discussed on flexbox how it makes our work and task easier in distributing and aligning our elements in the container. So we can make use of flexbox. Also we can make use of grid, that is also similar to flexbox, but the difference between flex and grid is flexbox is applicable for one dimensional use case, whereas grid is applicable for two dimensional use case. And also we can make use of the media query to make our grid layout responsive. Our 13th question is, how do you change the background color of the element? So how can we change the background color? We have CSS property which is similar to normally how do we write it in English. We write background and color. This is how we also say in English, right? If we want to change the background color. So similarly in CSS also we have the exactly same phrase, exactly same word, background color, but in between that, instead of space, you have to give a hyphen. So you can make use of background hyphen color property. And example, you can see we have written that we have directly selected body, and then we are giving background color as light blue. Now again you can see one more example where we have selected the entire element, that div element, and we have given background color as light green. So this background hyphen color is the CSS property, how you can change the background color of element. Now our 14th question is, what is color property in CSS? So color property, it sets the color of the text. Example, you can see, so for all the paragraph elements which you have, their color will become red. So for text color, we don't have a specific property like text hyphen color. There is nothing like that. If you can make use of just the word color, and color implies to the color of your text, so you need not write anything like text. You can just make use of simple color word. See, here we have made use of the element. We have selected the paragraph element and we have given color as dark blue, that red or dark blue, anything you can give, any CSS styling. So you are just making sure that all the p tags of your screen are going to have color dark blue. So this is the CSS property, how you can uh, change the color property of any element. 15th question is, how do you change the font size of the element? Similar to background, this is also same in English, normal English. How do we uh, say, or how do we write font size. So again, instead of the space, you can make use of the same word. You have to just replace your space with hyphens. You have to write font, then you have to write hyphen, and then you have to write size. So this is the CSS property, how you can change the font size of the element. So our code example, we can see here, we have the p, we have selected all the p tags of our page, and then we have given them font size as 18 pixels. So font hyphen size, this is the CSS property, how we can change the font size of our elements. So we have covered all the 15 important frequently asked CSS questions. In case you found this video to be helpful, then do give a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any feedback or suggestion, you can let me know in the comment section. Also, if you have any suggestion on what is the next topic I can make my video on, then do let me know in the comment section. And thanks for watching, everyone.